What's up, guys? We're past the pop culture. My name is Ricky with my co-host here, Mrphen.
Howdy.
And today we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to go over The Last of Us, right? Season finale. So spoilers, right? There's going to be spoilers. So I do recommend that if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Pretty good series, I have to say, to kind of give like our little rating right off the bat. I think we both enjoyed it.
Mhm.
We're also going to talk a little bit about E3, just some stuff going around, like, Xbox officially confirming they're not going to show up, which, I mean, everyone kind of knew that. And then, we're getting some dates confirmed and stuff. And then, just talk about some other stuff, maybe Suicide Squad, talk about Roblox, strangely enough, about, competing with Call of Duty. So we'll see if we get that far, though. We'll see how it goes. But first, I do want to get the Last of Us stuff out of the way. What's your rating, Fen? Shooting from the hip, what do you give it?
8. 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Out of 10?
Yeah, out of 100. No, I'm just kidding. Out of 10, yeah. It was pretty good. I don't really have any complaints about it, but yeah, I can't give it a 10 because I'm terrified of what's happening next. And that's probably why I should not, be that way, but I'm scared.
I think shooting from the hip, gut feeling, giving it like an 8, 8.5. More like an 8. I think it stuck the landing, but it was pretty shaky. I think I didn't like how they kind of just basically skipped over like the last third of the game.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like they just like, whoop, we're here now, and I'm like, what? Looked around, I'm like, told my brother, I'm like, did they skipped a lot, right? Like I remember there being more. I remember there being just a little bit more, like, and just my main gripe is that they just skipped over some like really awesome scenes from the game that I would have loved to see happen, especially with the first episode, how well they did the action sequence of them driving in the car, and it felt like just like the game.
Yeah.
I felt like the first episode was probably their strongest episode, though. I think like right out of the gate, they were really, really strong. It kind of like ducked down a little bit here at times, and then came back up, right? Like, but I think it was like it's stuck in a certain like, okay, this is good, this is watchable. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I give it like a good 8. But there was too many things they just missed out on. I didn't really like that. It just unfortunately brought it down to that 8, 8.5, which is still pretty strong. I usually don't give out like 8.5s like that easily. But because I do like The Last of Us, I'm a huge fan, and so I have that bias, I will admit. So going in, I was like, me and you were kind of worried, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the first trailer I saw, I was like, this isn't it. I don't think I like it.
We thought and
then the second one that they dropped, it was a little bit more extended, and I was like, why didn't they just drop this one first? I have no idea why. Yeah, that was like, okay, cool. Like I like it. It was a lot better, a lot more solid. I don't know. Casting, I think, was good, right? To like, okay. Like I still would have liked Hugh Jackman, right? Like going in, being Joel.
I still can't think of that one, but yeah.
Like, because I keep forgetting the movie's name, but he did something kind of similar, and it was like really good. And then everyone was like, oh yeah, Hugh Jackman. But I don't think they're going to be able to get Hugh Jackman for this TV show. So I mean, it is essentially a TV show, right? Like it's an HBO thing, but I don't know if that's like kind of like below him. You know what I mean? Like it's Hugh Jackman, so it's like I'm not sure.
He's done a HBO TV show before. Actually,
okay, okay. Well, a movie's different than a TV show, though. So it's like it's a little bit. So because I don't think he's ever really done like TV show stuff or like a serialized kind of like thing like. Outside of like Marvel movies or something like that, like I only really see him do like kind of like just different like one-off movie stuff. But point being is that casting was like, it wasn't bad, right? Like Pedro Pascal, I think he did a good job. Whatever name for Ellie did a good job. All of them, I always forget her name. I don't know why. I just can't remember it off the bat. So. But they all did a good job. I think they're convincing enough that they were these characters. Of course, they kind of changed the characters just a little bit. Right, like Joel tended to be a little bit more emotional in the series, which is fine. Because you hardly see Joel cry in the original game. Outside of just like the very first scene when his daughter dies, So I think they wanted to explore that aspect more in the series. And I think, unfortunately, the series kind of suffered from, what was it, 9 episodes they did?
Yeah, it was 9 episodes.
Yeah, I think it suffered from the low episode count because the whole time they were like, "Oh, we're gonna explore and expand the lore." They didn't really,
Yeah.
outside of just like some flashback and like some more lore. I mean, the most like it was like what was it, episode 3 with Bill, right? Like that was the most expansion that we got. And outside of that, they're like, okay, no, we're not gonna expand the story as much like that. Um, I did like though, because when they had the hunters, right? Like they had that group.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a good expansion to the story.
Right.
I just wish they did things more like that every step of the way. But they only really had those 2 things, and then even then, it's just like, okay, like I didn't want it to veer too off from the story. So that's the hard part where it's like you're adding these new things in and this backstory because they did change Bill, and then they did change kind of like that hunter sequence just a little bit, but not enough for really to be noticeable. Like I wouldn't be able to point out all the differences. I just know like, oh, did that happen 100% like that? And then like, but it didn't because we didn't have the huge like car crash and all the stuff coming out and all that. So, but I think most of the changes were fine. I wish they would have been a little bit more ballsy to put more episodes in so that we could have really expanded. I really would like some backstory though. I was really hoping that we would see Joel at the very beginning of the pandemic or the zombie outbreak, like outside of just like after, his daughter dies. Like I would like to see, I would have liked to see more. Yeah, what he was doing in all those years leading up to the story. I would have liked a little flashbacks or something like that more to expand upon it. They really could have done some like low risk stuff that wouldn't really affect the story too much. Just him going around killing people and killing zombies and the infected, not zombies, but you know what I mean. Like if they would have done that, I think that would have been better. I did feel like another problem was like there was just too few infected. Like they didn't really feel like a problem, and a big part of the game was the people and the infected. Like you are never safe because you can never trust the people, and the infected, you can't trust them. But like they just missed a lot of scenes. Like also that other scene where they're kind of like going underground through like the subways, and then all the clickers are everywhere and stuff like that. Like stuff like that. Like I keep remembering like scenes from the game because I haven't played it in so long that are like, well, that wasn't fully realized, and there was a lot of cool scenes like they just end up missing on, and it's
they only showed the infected for what, 3 episodes out of 9?
Yeah, like they weren't really a big deal. Like especially like when like Ellie got kidnapped and stuff like that. They kind of like didn't fully. I felt like that should have been a little bit longer, and maybe even split to like 2 episodes because there was a lot that happened there. Like, and so it's just like I think it just suffered from the low episode count, and that because they wanted to expand certain things, they couldn't fully expand, and then it was just so like it was kind of very limited. I'm not sure if it's just because HBO was like, "Yo, we can only give you a certain like limited runtime. We're only doing 9 episodes. We're only gonna pay for 9 episodes," or if it's kind of like they just didn't know what to do. Like where they were kind of paralyzed by the fear of like reaction, where it's like people are going to be like, oh well, they're not going to like it, which I highly doubt.
They made it because we might not like it, so it's like, all right, let's just do 9 real quick. I see.
So like I think they were like afraid that like, because let's be honest, games, right, like video game movies are typically bad. The only few good ones in recent time are like Mortal Kombat,
Sonic,
Detective Pikachu, and Sonic. Like those are the ones that were pretty solid, and even then, there's like shaky parts to them. So this is probably one of the better ones. But the thing is, due to like, because Sonic as a movie is very fundamentally different than like The Last of Us, because The Last of Us is almost, it's like takes heavy inspiration from movies. Exactly. So it's a little bit easier of a translation versus trying to get like pocket monsters to like appear on screen and have them look good and stuff like that, right? It's a little different. So I don't really see like that being too much of an issue when they were adapting the material and just being kind of scared to change things a little bit. But I don't know. I don't really know. I did feel like it didn't go all out. I think the show didn't 100% go all out
like they
on
held
it.
Back?
Like, yeah, I feel like it was held back a little bit by the episodes. It's just I really would have. I feel like the game like felt like this big long journey, but I felt like the show was like they were hitting checkpoints, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I totally see that actually.
So like I just feel like we're going through checkpoints, like different chapters, versus the game felt like, oh, like I'm going through different seasons, like we're moving across the country. Like I felt the like shift, like there was a big long journey, like, you know, like that's how I felt from the game versus the show kind of just felt more like we're just hitting these checkpoints. Maybe because I played the game, right? Like if someone who's never watched or play, like watch someone play the game, or you know, actually play the game. If someone's, you know, maybe it's just because, you know, I'm a fan and I've played it, so maybe that's why it's like it feels like a lot of stuff got butchered. But to outsiders or like newcomers, they're like, oh no, it was fine. But I do feel like there was pacing issues. I think that was probably its like biggest weakness was the pacing.
Yeah.
So
okay, let's like, do you know how your dad thought of the show? Like, what did he say? If you know,
he liked it. I told him just get ready for season 2, and I said like, because my dad, like the last thing, like one of the last things that stuck with me, he's like, oh man, like on the last episode when Joel was killing people, and then they were like, no, we won't do anything, but he's like, no, he knows he has to kill him, and so my dad's like, oh wow, like he knows, like yeah, he could let them go, but he
doesn't.
At the end of the day, like they're gonna come back for him though. And how does he know when he turns around they're not gonna shoot him, right? So it's like he liked that Joel was making consistently smart decisions, both Joel and Ellie, right? Like when Ellie was escaping from the weirdo, like, you know, she was smart. She wasn't dumb. And that's the thing, like he really enjoyed that the characters were actually intelligent enough to make good decisions to escape from, like, because you don't survive that long being dumb, right? Like you would die, right? So it's like they're very intelligent and outsmarting and maneuvering around the people, right? Like that was something my dad mentioned. And I said, well, you're not going to like the second season because they throw that out of the window. They're all dumb. They start making very rash, very stupid decisions that if they would have been making those decisions early on, they wouldn't have survived this long. So that's like, and that's my biggest gripe with The Last of Us 2 is like they start making decisions that are not very smart, that in no way is aligned with their characters, what they've established with their characters, all in order for like to push a plot that no one really liked. I mean, I think that's the main thing. Well, there's people that like the game, right? Like the story, which I think there's just too many like plot holes, and there's just too many things you just can like poke into it, that it's just the first Last of Us game was pretty solid all around, and the decision making made sense. And then even at the end, the most controversial thing was should Joel or should have Joel saved Ellie, right? Was that the right choice? Because we could have saved humanity here. And it was a whole philosophical debate about, well, he should have let Ellie die because it would have saved everyone. He would have saved the world. But the other side was like, well, Ellie was his world, so that's all he cared about. And it's like, who would have known? She would have died, and maybe there was no cure. How do we know this doctor actually knew what he was doing? How do we know that he wasn't just pretending to be a really good doctor, know what he's doing in order to just stay alive and for them to provide him resources, right? So it's like there was a lot of like going back and forth. And the second game is like, oh no, the game's actually pretty good. And then people are like, no, here's these plot holes. No, you're just wrong, man. And yeah, like that's how the conversation is there's no big philosophical debate in the second game. As I think Neil Druckmann wanted that debate of like not necessarily everyone being good or evil, right? That there's this gray blur that happens when people are trying to survive, and that, you know, like he mentioned like, oh, these cycles of abuse and stuff like that, right? Like and violence, cycles of violence, right? Like, you know, people doing something bad to them, so they retaliate, and it just goes in a circle. But he didn't do that. All it did was create like, wow, this is pretty garbage. And then people going, no, it's not garbage. It's actually really good. Like that's literally the discourse for the second Last of Us game. It wasn't, unfortunately, the big philosophical debate that happened in the first one that carried over to the second one, because none of the writing encouraged that. And so that's my worry is like this first one, right? Like, again, restarted the discourse in the season 1 where you have people then again starting to explain why Ellie should or shouldn't be saved. And then we're going to get to the second game now where all that gets thrown out the window. Like my dad said, I'm like, you're going to have to be prepared what they're going to do. I didn't tell them what happens. I'm not going to prepare them for that.
Or not smoked weed? That's going to be the debate.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's like, and the thing is though, they could fix it. They could fix it somehow, because a big problem though with the second game is you go around killing everybody and their mother, and then at the very end you're like, no, killing's wrong.
Yeah.
So if they make Ellie not kill anybody throughout the whole second season, and then she takes revenge, but she can't really even do that because already in this first season she's killed a few people.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they can kind of like fix that a little bit more because we're gonna get that time skip. So she's like maybe grown and be like, you know what, I don't want to kill people. Like surviving is difficult, but I don't want to do this. And then, you know, like you can start. I'm hoping that they fix those plot holes. But like you were saying, that Neil Druckmann was like, "Oh no, I don't care. None of the criticism matters."
So I was gonna say that. So yeah, he did say, you know, I don't care about the criticism, but he also said there's gonna be radical changes with the story. And then he's also saying that it's not gonna be just one season. So it's like, do you think? Because I know in the first season they did skip out like quite a lot of parts. Like maybe on the second season and you know after or whatever, like do you think maybe they're not necessarily gonna skip parts, but maybe they're gonna change parts and then kind of just like maybe, I don't want to say like fix Last of Us 2, or do you think it's just he's just gonna add more fluff?
Because they kind of lied to us on this one though, unfortunately, that they're saying they're gonna expand things and make things like different and really explore these characters. They didn't really do that too much.
Well, like what they even show? So like episode 3, and then they showed why Elle's, you know, immune, right? That's I guess the big one.
But that's DLC content that they just showed. Yeah. So all they did was just put in the DLC, and I guess that's the hard part too, because it's like I'm trying to think like, okay, they're gonna fix things, right, for The Last of Us 2. It makes sense if they actually genuinely mean to fix things. It's gonna need 2 seasons because the second Last of Us game, it's a lot longer, right? It's like double the runtime.
Yeah, it was a drag,
it's like yeah. So they make you play the same 3 days over again and do the flashbacks for like flashbacks. Yeah, and it's just like I've been here 5 times. I don't have to go through this again.
Cool. Now I can see outside the building instead of inside. Nice.
Yeah. And so, yeah, because we'll start rounding on that. So, if they genuinely are like, we're gonna fix this, because maybe like I said, like you had like it takes place in like what 3 days, right? So maybe Ellie's side is 1 season, and then the other side is the second season or third season. Sorry, it would be like Abby's side, if that makes sense.
I guess.
So like a whole season's dedicated to their stuff. I see that maybe. I don't know. I don't really know how they're gonna fix it though, because the problem is that these problems were in the game, but it was a drag because we were playing the same thing over and over again. I think it'll be a little bit different when we're sitting down and just watching people be in the same location. I think that will affect us a little differently watching it.
I feel like it'll be more boring.
So I mean,
because now you can't control anything. Now you can't have choices. You're just sitting there watching the same thing over and over and over again.
I guess that is true. I don't know. I feel like it'd be a little bit different because like the criticism of it was that it was just boring. You did the same puzzle, you did the same thing over again. So I'm hoping that they just cut down on that. Honestly, the flashback within the flashbacks, I don't really care for. I do hope to cut a lot of that stuff out, like the infamous boat scene. I hope we just skip over that, right? I don't want to see that. And then
I forgot about that.
It's like the boat scene or the weird flashbacks within the flashback, right? Like stuff like that. I hope we kind of skip out on. Right. And that instead, the stuff that we missed from the first season, Ellie's having flashbacks. Because, you know, there are flashbacks that happen, like, you know, with Ellie finally going to that museum, right? And putting the space helmet on, right? Like, I'm hoping that if they're going to do flashbacks, it's stuff like that. And then the stuff that they missed in the first season, they kind of do flashbacks for that stuff, if that makes sense, right?
I get you.
So like the stuff that we didn't go over, we're just gonna be like, oh, remember when like, you know, you were hung upside down and shooting all them, and it shows like a flashback to the scene. So at least we get some sort of acknowledgement that these things happen. I would be kind of happy with that, because it just felt like they skipped over so much, and it's like, and so like, because, you know, explaining to like my dad or like to other people, it's just like, no, like the game was like way better, and they're like, well, the series was so good. I'm like, yes, but you have to play the game. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, the game is like 3 times better than the TV show. Not that they didn't do a good job, but there's just so much more expansion on the story. It's like a 20-hour movie, right? Like versus the how many hours we got after 9 episodes, right? And the last episode felt kind of short. I just felt like things just happened so quickly.
It was rushed. It was definitely rushed.
And so like again, that goes back to the pacing thing. But it's like, I don't know. It's just I don't know how they plan on fixing, because I don't. Maybe Neil Druckmann's just too proud to take the criticism, and he's gonna fix it without acknowledging the criticism, and then so he can maybe be like, oh well, no, yeah, like there was things that I knew we could fix, but
it was my idea, not yours.
It is hard because like you get criticism and you're like, oh well, these are just trolls on the internet, and that's unfortunately 90% is just people trolling. Like all the death threats to the actors and all the people involved is unnecessary, and people shouldn't do that. I don't know why people do that. Like,
because they're stupid.
Nothing has ever driven me to be like do that. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't get it. Like I don't understand the mentality of it. So it's kind of hard for me to like comment on it. Like it's just like just don't do it. But it's like it's a common sense thing. You don't do that. So it's like I don't know what drives them to do that. I mean, I understand it's a bad show or a bad movie or
like, is your life that
video
bad
game.
You wish
yeah, like but it was and it's like
chill.
like you can like if you give a general criticism like, oh, I think this movie's garbage, don't watch it. Like, okay, that's different than like being like, hey, yeah, check your mailbox. It's like, wait, what? It's like
in game, in game.
It's like, it's just. I don't know.
I am scared though, because I know there's a lot of scenes that I did enjoy in the game for like even the first one.
Yeah,
and it's like they just completely forgot about them and like it didn't exist in the show, and it's just like, well, every choice you make, not every choice in the game, it felt impactful. Like you felt everything, and like with the last episode, I guess spoilers, like when they see the giraffe or whatever, like in the game, it's like, holy cow, that hurt, like that felt good or whatever. And then, like, in the show, it was just like, all right. Like, in the show, for me, it didn't feel like peace. It didn't feel like, okay, now they both like each other or whatever. It didn't feel like, oh, yeah, they accomplished their mission. It just felt like...
Yeah, that like strong father-daughter bond.
Yeah, it just felt like, oh, yeah, let's go.
Well, I think, too, because... I even wrote about this because like for like an English paper, and that how the reason why The Last of Us was so good was because it's that whole like dynamic of like there is a certain like peace and beauty within The Last of Us, right? And like with the giraffe scene, or you're looking at these huge buildings and like nature's taken over, right? And like that's what I like so much is that like this whole like Mother Earth kind of like reclaim the land kind of thing, right? And like this whole there's beauty within the apocalypse and the end of the world, and that there's a certain like beauty to all of it, even though all these bad things. And that's what I always enjoyed about The Last of Us, is that there's like the human parts, the dignity, the beauty, and the love aspect. But I felt like they leaned a little bit more in the show to the dark and gritty aspect of it. And they didn't take as much time as the game did to like smell the roses, for like a lack of a better term.
Literally, like
just to like, wow, look at this giraffe. Like that was a good scene and it was good, but it wasn't as impactful as it was in the game because you just got, like it just was like, oh, hey, look. And so I don't know, it's just like because you were just going through all this stuff and like you always would get a good reminder, like, you know what, like there's a reason why we still survive. And I felt like the second one, like the second Last of Us game, right? Like it just didn't have that. It was just like, and it's teen goth, I hate everyone phase. Like that's kind of what like the game felt. Yeah, and I felt like it lacked a lot of the beauty that the first game did. Like, and that was a problem, right? Like, and so hopefully they get to remedy that. They didn't really demonstrate it too well in the first season of the show. So I'm worried that because HBO always does their whole like their dark and gritty thing. So I'm kind of worried. Yeah, and it's like, I think you need that balance though. Like you can't just have it be dark all the time like the second Last of Us. So I hope they really, really, really actually go back and reevaluate the story. I hope someone on the writing team that's not Neil Druckmann, that they actually bring into the studio and they're like, you know what? Maybe we just change these things around, like
get rid of the weed scene.
I hopefully by having the other writers in the room with them and kind of like giving like good criticism and being like, okay, maybe let's fix things here. I'm hoping that is enough to be like, okay, there's valid criticism to the writing and that things we can fix. But that's like me being hopeful about it, right? So I don't know. If that's how it's going to end up as. But I don't know. Let us know, guys, because I'm very interested to see what everyone's takes are on how they think they're going to handle the second game.
Yeah.
In the
and
second and third
season.
Yeah, and you like the first one. That would be very interesting. But yeah, any thoughts before we start moving on to the E3 stuff, though?
No, I'm just happy we had good television, to be honest. And it's a video game.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that, we are like nitpicking a lot, but overall, it was good,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did remember saying, like, we have to figure out how to separate, the video game to the show, and which I pretty much forgot, but like, it's good. Like, separate from the video game, well done. Like, but when you kind of compare it to the video game, they missed out on a lot, and they hit the mark, but it's slightly to the left. That's
it wasn't a bullseye. There you go.
It wasn't a bullseye.
It wasn't like right on there.
Yeah, that's my conclusion.
Yeah, so let's just switch into the E3 stuff because we do got a stream in a little bit.
Yep.
So Xbox confirmed they're not going to be there at E3 for 2023.
Again,
not really too surprising, right? Like, I mean, it seems like everyone's just kind of leaving E3. So yeah, I mean, that if you were looking forward to Xbox revealing some stuff, I guess they're all like, I mean, like Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, they're all gonna skip E3. So it's all right, I guess. They are gonna have a showcase on June 11th though for the Xbox Game Showcase. But I don't know. It's whatever, I guess. We'll see. I don't even know
the E3 that it used to be. Yeah. Right? It used to be the hype part of the year. All right,
new games, early 2000s and stuff. Everything was released there.
Like, I still remember when The Rock came out with Xbox. I don't know if anybody remembers that. This was Xbox, and The Rock was like, "Hello, I'm partnered with Xbox," and it's just like nice, but
yeah. But if you do still want to catch E3, so the dates have been confirmed, I believe, and I'm like blinking out on it. Oh, so it's going to be from June 13th to the 16th of this year. So we're going to be getting all this stuff. Then again, neither Nintendo nor PlayStation nor Xbox is going to be there. So I think like 90% of the people are not really going to like tune in. It feels like, I mean, I'm being over like exaggerating here, but I just feel like I'm like, well, I don't even really care about what they're putting out too much. It's more just like, oh, okay, like we'll talk about it. Like, I don't even really care what like the new stuff's coming out for the most part, right?
Actually,
like,
I don't think I don't care either, because all the games I care about is before E3.
Yeah, and it's like look, because we got the Suicide Squad game, right? Like, we're gonna talk about that. Everyone knows about the delays, right? Because I want to bring that up. Like, everything's just getting delayed and pushed back, which is fine. But this game's been delayed so many times. It's supposed to come out in May. Now it's gonna get delayed for potentially another year. Oh man, but this is pretty bad,
we'll get
guys.
a new trailer at E3 for Suicide Squad.
Yeah, so it's Rocksteady, right? That's doing this.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know. I just don't think it's working. I have a feeling that the game behind the scenes is just not working. It's not what people want it to be. I don't know. Have we seen gameplay? I don't remember, because it's like
they haven't shown any. No, they haven't shown any gameplay. It's pretty much just been like trailers and like short snippets, and then like they showed that Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman, but now they're just spitting on his grave by delaying this game for 50,000 years.
Yeah, because that's his last.
This is his last.
That's the last thing. That's the last thing he's done. Yeah. But I don't want it to be bad, and I don't want them to like if the game's gonna be good from this delay, yes. But it's just like, I think maybe it just got too ambitious, or it just, I don't know. I really don't know. Actually, because it's like it's been going on for so. Yeah, it's like it's just maybe what's it called when they did the Arkham Knights or whatever it was, Gotham Knights. There we go. Maybe that kind of scared them a bit, and they wanted to go back to the drawing board. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't tell you, but
yeah. So it's been 3. Okay, so 2020 is when they announced it, Rocksteady, and then it's supposed to come out this year. So that's 3 years later. But now it might be 4. So they've been pushing it back for like 4 years. Is that right? Holy.
Yeah. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes there. So I can't tell you like what's happening. It's just it seems to be bad, whatever it is.
Like
It's kind of sad because I'd like to play it, but
I know it looks cool. I like the premise of it, but it's like if they're pushing it back this far, they have to say why, or give us something, not just trailers, and then be like, "Oh, actually, we're delaying it."
as I'm saying, like how much
after the event?
Yeah,
and then they're like, "Whoops." Okay, so I don't know.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's just everything just seems to go into hell in a handbasket. So we're just gonna have to see, and we're just gonna sit and wait. We're gonna sit and wait on it. I'm not gonna buy it day one. That thing's gonna be radioactive, man. That thing's gonna.
They're
I
gonna
think
have to show something so good in order for us to even think about
the
it.
problem is because they've delayed it so many times now. People just want to tear into it. No matter like now, people just want to take a dump on it.
Yep.
Right. Like
they're gonna hate it just because.
Yeah, everyone's gonna put their little viral video and like, oh, this game's trash, and we waited 10 years for it or whatever. So it's unfortunate. Like they waited too long to like really. That's the thing I hate with game announcements. It's like, don't tell me you're coming out with the game. Like, don't tell me you're coming out. Do the game. When you're close to finishing up, then get things going. Like you're in the last year of development. All right, let's start. Let's start pushing things out. But if you're like, oh, the game's gonna get started now. Game's not coming out in 5 years. Like 5 years, I don't care. Like just don't tell me about this. Like why get me hyped now? Like so many games do that, and I think it's just because of the stupid marketing teams or something they have on there.
We want
that. Yeah, like they got some. Yeah, like for movies and stuff, right? Like they start. I think they're trying to like market it like movies, right? Like you need people to keep remembering the date, right? The date when it comes out,
but
right?
Movies is only a year, not 3, 4, or 5
years. Yeah, and then the thing is too, like fans, like if you canceled a movie right now outside of like a Marvel movie, I don't think most people would care.
Nope.
Right? Like if a movie was like, oh, we're not doing that anymore, people would be like, oh, that stinks. But they would like, but when a game gets canceled, people flip out. Like, people are ready to get the torches, like, and pitchforks, and are ready to go out and like start fighting people, right? Like they're gonna burn down the game dev studio. So it's like when because people get that upset, like so it's like
it's happened.
The thing is,
too.
it's like like people are really dedicated to gaming. So it's like for you to come out and be like, oh, we're pushing this another year. It's like, why though? And that's the thing. It's like transparency. Like if you're fully transparent and be like, we want to make this the best game we can. This is how far we've gone. I'm sorry. We really do apologize. We just do not want to fail. We're scared. Okay, just please.
Yeah, but that requires them to be honest. So
yeah, like it just requires the honesty, right? Like that's why Halo just took a dump, right? Because they weren't transparent. But game studios that are like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're working on. Here's our dev logs. This is what we've done so far. You can see it, right? Like we're right here, dude. Like I know it takes extra time to put this all stuff out, but it's like we're right here, and like people can follow that. People like that more.
They love it.
So it's like either just like nut up and shut up and don't tell me about the game till it's like ready to go, or you can have us follow along in the development, right? So that there's open honesty and transparency, and that's what people want. They just want to know that you're just not like trying to grift them for their money by dropping this like dud game on there, and then we all pay $70 to just get like dumped on because it's like, wow, we just paid for garbage,
concept, right?
And it's like, wow, if you were just transparent and honest with your people, like of course there's still going to be the people no matter what that are going to have a negative perception because they're on there to get like the Twitter likes and to be like, oh, your game studio is stupid, and then people just like it, right? Like there's always going to be those people that are trying to give their like risky, edgy, hot take so that they can try to get some likes and like traction and stuff like that. So there's always going to be people that are like that, and there's going to be negative reception no matter what you do. But the core fan base that is actually going to play and participate in your community and stuff like that, and that actually are going to keep your game going, those are the ones where it's like you want to keep them knowledgeable and happy.
Only care about them.
Because it's like most of the people that are just taking a dump on a game, right? Like they're not gonna stick around. Like I don't stick around for The Last of Us 2, right? Like I dump on it all the time. I don't stick around for it. So it's like, it's like I do hope that the multiplayer is good, and like I'm gonna wait for that. And if it's good, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm going right back into it. But if it's bad, I'm just gonna be like, wow, this thing sucks, and then I leave. And then I'm not really playing it. So it's like you need to make sure that the core fan base though is happy though, because you get people like me who are upset, and we always talk about it, and it's like it's hard to get the good faith back, right? Like for The Last of Us, it was very hard to reel us back in, but they did it, and I'm like, okay, let's see what you got going next. And it's like if they just totally like ruin it again, I think we're just gonna walk away again, and then we're gonna be like, oh, okay,
it's time to cancel the boys.
Like, I just want my multiplayer to be good. I spent so much time as a kid playing that, dude.
You're gonna find out this year, Ricky. You're gonna find out this year. That's
dude. It was such a cool, tight-knit little community and stuff like that. Yeah, there's like, of course, you're like elitists that were just like, oh man, you stink at the game. You're bad, kid. But then there's getting like, I love getting the hate messages on PlayStation. You're better at the game. Why are you doing that? And then it's like, bro, you're just mad that like, oh man, like it was so good. It was so good. I hope they actually make it like really good. But anyways. We'll see, because it's 2:00 for us now. So that means we got to be heading out. We're going to stream, right? So make sure to follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/PassThePopCulture. If you guys want to hang out with us, talk about Last of Us more. We've been playing some Call of Duty. We're taking a little break from 7 Days to Die, it seems. We've been trying to get into ranked a little bit more for Call of Duty. So maybe grinding that out. So yeah, coming out. We always love to talk. If you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, leave a like. We very much appreciate that. And drop a comment. Let us know. Do you like The Last of Us Season 1? Was it good? Did it kind of fail for you? Let us know. If you're excited for Season 2 or you're really scared like us, follow us on our social medias. Pass the Pop Culture on everything, pretty much at Pass the Pop Culture on everything. Twitter, Facebook,
everything.
Instagram, whatever the main ones are, and that haven't gotten taken down yet, the other ones. So we usually let you guys know when we're live. We post stuff all the time, and a lot of our clips go up there. So if you enjoy the clips, or check out our shorts on YouTube as well. We have like a whole bunch of them. I mean, we usually post one a day. I've been kind of behind just because of school, but we're going to get back to the regular schedule. So if you're used to watching our daily uploads, very much appreciate that, and for being patient, and we'll get back to it in the following week. So I think I covered everything though. So I think we'll sign off. Come hang out with us on Twitch. Thanks, guys.
Bye.